Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about a buck we call Boomer. We've had numerous encounters with this buck, and we're going to go through the year we've had with this buck. When we first noticed him was early summer, midsummer of this year. We started noticing this buck showing up at our mineral sites where we're feeding Boontown Deer Minerals. This buck was showing up with a group of other bucks that had all these extra tines. Wasn't really like a non-typical rack, but it just had a whole lot of tines off of his main beams. And we decided to call him Boomer. I'm not sure exactly how that name came about, but he was there very regularly in the summertime. Come hunting season, he was on our hit list. Because of all the tines, we were like, we really don't know how old he is. He seemed to be a new deer. We weren't sure. We couldn't really couldn't pinpoint him from last year until Joe and I, later this fall, Joe and I went back through a whole bunch of pictures from 2.5-year-old bucks last year, and he found one that has a very similar frame. So we think we probably have pictures of him last year, and this year he's a 3.5-year-old. But in the early part of the season, we thought he's a new buck, and because he was decent size and had all these extra tines, he was on our hit list until November the 8th. I was hunting near our power line, right on the edge of the power line, just up from the interstate. It's about 150, 200 yards probably from the interstate. And I had our first real encounter with Boomer. It was the middle of the day. I think it was 12:45 in the afternoon, just after afternoon time. And he came from the left, through the power line, never gave me a shot, but he was only 25 yards away or so. Turned around and started chasing a doe down towards the bottom, down towards the interstate. Did see him cross up the hill further down the valley and chased that doe up above me on my right hand side, and it got a little bit of footage of him. But after that encounter, we went back and looked at the footage, and we realized he had broke off a whole bunch of his tines. I say a bunch, I think 4 tines. And so at that point is also about the time we realized that he's probably just a 3.5-year-old buck, and we did have the pictures from last year. We decided, all right, we're gonna pass him for this year. But we had a few more awesome encounters with this buck later this season. The next encounter was Thursday night of gun season. Whoa, Jonas, hold your horses. You forgot one encounter. Wednesday night of gun season, when Barbara was coming down to help me get out my buck, she actually hit Boomer, or Boomer hit her. That was the next encounter. The next day, Jonai and I were hunting, and Jonai was sitting by himself on the ground at kind of the other end of the property, and he saw Boomer approximately 100 yards away. Was through some trees, through a lot of trees, and he got a little bit of footage of him, but it was not great footage because of all the trees that were in the way, but he did recognize him as being Boomer. And then Saturday of gun season, I was with Lewis, was actually in the trees, the same tree stand I was in, or the same tree I was in November the 8th. On Wednesday afternoon of gun season, I hung a hang-on stand and climbing sticks in this tree. Thursday, when I was hunting with Jonai, I hung my climber in the same tree. So now we had 2 stands in that same tree, and Lewis and I were in that same tree Saturday night. And here's what happened. This was the best encounter and the best footage we have gotten of Boomer so far. could be Boomer. He's coming up the creek. He's going up. Where do you think in there? Oh, the doe's coming up here. He's gonna come up here, I think. Yeah, he's coming. I think it's Boomer. There's two does. He's chasing them. And he's down at that thing stop. But there goes. Is that him? I'm not sure. Pretty sure it's Boomer. And just be ready to grab me more bucks if there's a hot doe in there. Do you see him? I thought he was that last deer that was running. So Lewis and I ended up seeing 14 deer from that stand in the first 45 minutes of being in the tree that night. And then the rest of the night we saw almost nothing. So 14 deer, most of them were on the other side of the creek to our right. And there was like little bucks bedded over there. There's a little group of bucks. And then there was 5 does, and there was the 3 does that were with Boomer, was 3 originally, and then there was one left, and there was 2 left. But we had an awesome sit that night. It was one of the best sits of our entire season. Having Boomer that close for that long, like 20-25 yards for 10 minutes or almost, something like that. So that was awesome. We really hope he makes it to next year, and we're going to continue to feed him Boomtown Deer Minerals, as well as other feed as well. But make sure the deer have plenty to eat this whole winter. And by the way, we do bait here in Ohio. It's legal to bait in Ohio. We do bait, but we also feed the deer, meaning we feed them outside of season, not just in season, in order to hunt over the food. So we do feed, and we don't feed just corn. Since we know about Boomtown Deer Minerals, we started feeding that with corn in our feeders, and sometimes we just dump it on the ground as well. In the summertime, it's just dumped on the ground like a mineral site. But it is a supplement feed attractant. So it's not just minerals, it's not just food, it's not just, it's a supplement. Lots of high quality nutrition, up to 24% protein in every bite of Boomtown. So it's an awesome add-on to corn. I know a lot of people claim that just feeding corn is not good, and therefore we decided to mix it in, mix it up, and we feed it all winter long. Last year, or this past winter, we started feeding Boomtown in March. That's when we first heard about it. But we have been feeding corn all winter long, and we will continue to do that this winter until green up in the spring. At that point, we stop with the corn and the feeders, and we just put out mineral sites for the rest of the summer until towards fall. Depending on food source, depending on how well our food plot is doing, we might switch again to adding corn, or we will switch to adding corn again in Boomtown at some point every fall. So that's our strategy. Hoping by adding this Boomtown to the mix, Boomer can grow into something very special next year. We think he definitely has the potential for it. Looking at what he probably was, if he was that 2.5-year-old buck last year to what he grew to this year, we estimated him to be in the 155 range score-wise before he broke his tines. Hopefully he'll add as much again next year or more, and be a super nice buck next year. So make sure you like the video, comment, subscribe, because this is only part 1 of the buck we call Boomer. Hoping we have a good part 2 coming in the near future, or within the next year. We have part 2, and we can bring you guys that footage and share the rest of the story of the buck we call Boomer. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.